Hello, everyone.
Hi,
We are
everyone.
Amy and Suzanne, and yeah, we're really excited to share with you a little bit about our Body Wise Women course coming up next week. We're going to be starting on Monday. Can't believe it, Suzanne. It's come around so quickly, hasn't it?
It has, very quickly, yeah.
Wow,
Yeah.
from just like a little discussion of let's do this thing together, from actually launching next week. It's been quite a journey, isn't it?
It certainly has, yeah. From little acorns grow mighty oaks.
Yeah,
Or at
love that.
least saplings to begin with.
Yeah. So the course is all about kind of exploring our relationship with our body and our relationship with our food, through story, through metaphors and archetypes, and also bringing in this lovely embodiment practice of dance and music and visualization. So it's a whole combination of our worlds, isn't it, Suzanne, of eating psychology and story, and just, yeah, we woven, as you well corrected me, woven together in a really beautiful tapestry. So we thought we'd do a little mini taster. So Suzanne is going to tell us a story, and we're just going to kind of see what arises and have a little chat around what that's inspired in us, and what we could how we can use story and metaphor in our lives to kind of enhance our relationship with ourselves and each other. Yeah, so I'll hand over to you, Suzanne.
Story is a wonderful thing. We are all storytellers, and we tell stories all the time. And if I ask somebody, so are you a storyteller? They'll go, no, I'm not a storyteller. It's like, well, you are, because we share the story of our lives with people, and we listen to people as they share their lives with us, and we dream at night. That's another form of storytelling. So we are story beings from the very essence of us is about story. It's how we share the information about our lives on be it physical, mental, emotional, spiritual. So story is deeply woven into our DNA. So, and we all love films and TV programs, and we hooked in on those stories, and they always leave us at a cliffhanger. We're like, oh, I want to know some more. So what Amy and I are doing is we're using little nuggets of stories, which we're going to dissect a little bit and try and understand the archetypes, as Amy said, that are within these stories, that are parts of ourselves, which maybe can explain to us why we behave sometimes in the way that we do. So I've been a storyteller for how many years? Officially, as a professional storyteller, I have been, I don't know, about 13 years or something like that now. But I've been telling stories for much longer than that. So this is really exciting for me to be able to tell, or to be involved in this course with Amy, doing what I love doing, which is telling stories about a subject which is very dear to my heart, and being able to share that with a wonderful circle of women. So yeah, the hope is that you will see this and maybe be inspired to find a little bit more out about it, and come and join us. There's only a couple of places left on the course, and we'd love to be able to fill them. So are we going to say a little bit about ourselves, or shall I just tell the story, Amy?
Whatever you feel, Suzanne, what do you think?
Why don't I just tell the story?
Let's do it.
Okay, so we're going to introduce you to the crazy world of metaphor in stories. And the story I'm going to tell tonight is only a little short one. It's a Japanese story. Without further ado, okay. Once upon a time, there was an old woman. She was old. And she lived on the side of a hill. And as is often the case in stories, she was not just old, but she was poor. And she wasn't just poor, but she was lonely. And she wasn't just lonely, she was pretty bad-tempered and kept people away. And because she had so little, she just decided to keep it all to herself. Most of the time, she could only afford rice to eat. And she would make rice cakes, and she made the most delicious rice cakes, it has to be said. And one day, she was taking a tray of rice cakes out, and she went to put them on the table, and she dropped them. Well, those rice cakes, being round like a wheel, they went onto the floor and they started to roll and roll and roll down the hill. Well, the old woman wasn't going to let these rice cakes get away, so she picked up her skirts and she ran. "Come back here, you rice cakes, I'm hungry." And the faster she ran, the faster the rice cakes rolled. They picked up speed as they were going down the hill, and they rolled and they rolled, and the woman, she ran and she ran and she ran, but she couldn't catch them. She could see them going out of her sight, and then bang, they hit a slab of rock. And she thought, "I've got them." And as she got close, she saw this hand come out and round the front of that slab, and it grabbed those rice cakes and disappeared. Well, the old woman was furious just when they were in her sight, and she looked around the corner of that rock and she saw a tunnel, and there, disappearing down the tunnel, was this huge creature. Well, she wasn't frightened. She wanted her rice cakes back. She was hungry. So she ran down after this creature. "Give me back my rice cakes." And he led her down tunnel after tunnel after tunnel, a maze of tunnels. She was just about to give up when she saw a light up ahead, and she continued to run. And suddenly she found herself in a cave, a big cave. And there in front of her was the demon. For this was an Oni. Yes, an Oni, a demon of the most, gross. But not only was he gross and eating her rice cake, but he wasn't alone. She looked around the cave and she realized that there was there was more than she could count. And they were all looking at her. And the Oni was, "More rice cakes." And she said, "Well, I'll have to go home and make them." And "No, come." And they took her into the next cave, and there were big pots full of boiling water. And they gave her a wooden paddle, and she took that wooden paddle and they said, "Rice, few grains of rice." So she said, "A few grains? I know how to make rice cakes, and you need more than a few grains." "No, a few grains." So she took a few grains and she put them into there. Stir. She stirred. And as she stirred, that rice grew and grew and grew until from a few grains, the pot, massive pot, was full of rice. Well, all that night she made rice cakes, one after the other, and the Onis, they ate and they ate and they ate. And then she said, "Right, well, I'll be off now then." "No, you stay and you cook us rice cakes." And with that, they blocked the cave entrance by falling asleep. Well, the next few days took on a rhythm. She made the rice cakes whilst the Onis slept. The Onis ate while she slept. But all the time she was thinking and thinking and thinking, trying to work her way out. She knew that the water had to come from a nearby stream. She discovered where it was. And then she found a pot that was big enough to get in herself. So one night, while the Onis were asleep, she took that pot and she took that wooden magic paddle and she dragged the pot all the way down to the stream. She knew that the Onis would not cross the water to get her. But unfortunately, the sound of the pot dragging along the floor had woken some of the Onis, and it wasn't long, even though she'd got in the water in the pot and was paddling away, when she heard them behind her. But she kept going, paddling and paddling, but the water got less and less and less, and she was actually on the bottom of the stream, and she looked behind her and all the fish were flapping about, and she looked further back and there were the Oni, now swollen. They had sucked that water up and they were coming for her. Well, she had to think quickly. She looked at them and she looked at the fish and she had an idea. She started to catch those fish and she kept laughing at the Oni as she threw the fish at them. Well, Oni are so greedy that all they could do was catch them and put them in their mouths. And as soon as their mouths were open, the water came gushing out and she was swooshed down the stream. And soon she was out in the open and in the daylight, and she knew they wouldn't come then, because Onis are night creatures. She went as far as she could to her home, left the big pot, but took the magic paddle. And she went back to her house and she made rice cakes. And she thought about her life. And she realized how lonely she'd been. And now she had an ideal opportunity. With just a few grains of rice, she could feed everybody that lived on that hill. And that is what she did. There was more than enough for her and everyone else too. And that's the end of that.
Yay!
Amy.
Yeah, oh wow, I love that story. And yeah, it's one of the books, it's one of the stories from Eating in the Light of the Moon. So yeah, Suzanne, what's your favorite part of that? What's the favorite part of your story, and what's the thing that jumps out at you the most there?
I think the thing that I like the most is that she has to take the time to work out how she's going to escape and really think about that. And so it's like she's taking back her power. You know, she's been disempowered because she was chasing after these rice cakes because she was hungry. But she has to take time now to think and use all her intuition to be able to escape. And the things that she picks, the only thing she picks is the magic paddle, because she's not really interested in the pot. That's just a way for her to get out, and that's why she leaves it behind. But this is the thing. So yeah. You know, but it's to do with you know, it's she's hungry. That's right. Her food source. So, but what else is she chasing, really? You know, she's chasing, what are the rice cakes apart from food, you know?
Yeah, and I think there's just so much richness in just 5 minutes of story. I mean, we could probably talk about this for like hours. But yeah, there's so much richness because, like you say, she's hungry and she's chasing these rice cakes, and it's kind of urgent, it's this like urgency where she's like chasing down the hill, like, you know, she's lifting her skirts up. That's I love that image of that, and the way you described it was fantastic. But yeah, there's just this kind of I guess it's a great segue to kind of use this metaphor as a symbol or as something, as a tool to kind of think about the deeper things. So when we think about hunger, you know, really learning to tune into our hunger, like, is it a physical hunger, or is it like a energetic hunger? Is it a hunger for connection? Is it a hunger for, I don't know, creativity? Is it a hunger for having meaningful relationship? You know, all of these things that we so often look to food for, because that's how we've survived, right? That's like the first thing we learn when we're young, is like food equals love and connection. And especially if we've had parents or we've had guardians that have been like in reinforcing that message of, yeah, you know, oh sweetie, you know, what's wrong, you've hurt your knee, let's go have an ice cream, you know, all of these things, like food equals love and comfort. So I just love that. Yeah, this is a really beautiful gentle way for us to explore perhaps this huge big topic of our relationship with food, our relationship to our bodies, and in a really fun, creative, meaningful way. As a community, we can kind of discuss these bigger topics and maybe unpick some of those things that perhaps we beat ourselves up for, or we judge ourselves for. You know, we feel guilt and we feel shame around those things. But yeah, just to say that it's kind of, it's one of those things that we've learnt since we're babies, right? So anyway, I feel like I went off on a bit of a tangent there. But hopefully
Well, no,
that
you
makes
haven't, because the first part of the course is called it's not about the food, isn't
right.
it?
Yeah.
So you know, it's perfect. What you've just been saying is so right. You know, there are many other reasons why we eat in the way that we do.
Yes.
You know, and how we develop these patterns of behavior, and yeah, and how we can learn to break out of them as well, and not beat
Yeah,
ourselves up.
absolutely. Right. And I think that that's really present for me in this, what you were saying about the ladle. Like, she's in this cave with these demons that are just constantly hungry, which feels like really symbolic to me, having been through kind of like binge eating and, you know, using food for comfort. Just having this visual of like the demons that are so hungry that you just have to kind of keep feeding with actual food. But like you say, like her mind's ticking, her mind's thinking all the time. So there's a river, you know, and she's kind of like really developing her skills to enable her to get out of the cave safely. And I think that that's another beautiful symbol for our relationship with food, which can oftentimes come out in all these different kind of strange habits that we've got. But ultimately, underneath those things, what we need to do is, or what the invitation that we can do is, develop these other skills that perhaps are asking to be looked at, like our creativity, like, I don't know, our enjoyment, like our fulfillment, a sense of being satisfied and experiencing pleasure and all these things, and kind of really developing our skills to deal with our emotions, you know, how to express ourselves in our unique way. So I love that she's kind of like thinking of all these things and tapping into like her inner resources, and comes up with like this hilarious scene of like, I'm gonna throw, you know, they have to eat this so they can let go of the water and all this stuff. And she's sort of, we're kind of going to be developing our magic ladle, right? over the course of the 6 weeks.
Yeah. And it's the light and the dark, isn't it? You know, I mean, there's all sorts of symbology in there in terms of the demons live in the dark. So it's about us exploring other aspects of ourselves, you know, and going deeper within, as opposed to looking at the food and blaming that. You know, it's about actually us going in. What are our demons, or who are our demons? You know, on what level? You know, are they emotional? Are they physical? Are they, you know, is it somebody? Is it a behavior? Is it, you know, whatever it is? And the fact that you know, water is also a symbolism of our emotions. You know, and we can get stuck in our emotions. But this is, so when they draw that water back, it's like they're trying to bring her back into the cave, you know, to stick with what their agenda is, you know. So the fact that she's able to fight that and go no, and release it and go back out into the light, and to be changed, you know. That's the beauty of it, is that, you know, when we're brave enough to actually go down into the dark, you know, there's so many stories about the descent into the darkness, and then coming out changed again. I mean, you know, I could spend from now until next week actually just with the myths and legends of that, you know. So so it's a huge part of it, that descent into our own darkness, into our own soul, and recognizing that and making friends with it, and recognizing that we are resilient, and we do have this control and power within ourselves. We have everything we need within ourselves, if we can only just tap into that and believe that that is the case. You know, that we can, like her, we can leave and be changed, you know. So and that's the power of story, to take you on that journey. So, and it's outside of yourself, and that's where the power lies. Is it's not, you know, you're not it's not in your head. You're actually it is in your head, but you know, you're being presented with this wonderful journey, and you can apply yourself to it. You can see aspects of it, the archetypes running through this, and those that relate to you and who you are, you know, and it's whatever resonates with you, really. So yeah.
Yeah.
So there's lots of yummy richness and
Yeah.
discussion and dance and movement and just, oh, it's going to be absolutely food for the soul, you know. It's really is going to
Yes.
be food for
Pun
the soul.
intended.
2 hours. Yeah,
Pun
pun
intended.
absolutely intended. Yeah, 2 hours every Monday for the next 6 weeks, starting on this Monday. We'd love it if you can join us.
Yes, we would. And yeah, please get in touch with us if you feel called, or if you have any questions, just ping us a message and we'd be really, really happy to talk to you about it. So yeah, as you can see, lots of juicy stuff gonna happen. So yeah, it'll be lovely, lovely, lovely to virtually circle with you, and we really hope to see you soon. Take care, everyone.
Bye.